Welcome to The Practical Intuitive, where each Monday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 Eastern, where host Robin Fritz explores mind, body, and spirit for the real world. Because we are all intuitives and healers, and we must all learn to love ourselves and live that love every day. Robin is a trained and certified intuitive and spiritual consultant and hypnotherapist with an international practice based in Seattle, Washington. As the Practical Intuitive, she covers personal and business intuition, animal communication, mediumship, space clearing, past life regression, shamanic insights, energy healing, soul choice. It's all here. Readings, healings, and funny, warm, thought-provoking conversations. It's Robin Fritz, the Practical Intuitive, helping you mastermind body and spirit for the real world. No ifs, ands, buts, or BS ever.
Welcome to the Practical Intuitive, mind, body, spirit for the real world. It's Robin Fritz, and we are live in Seattle, Washington. It's June 3rd, 2019. And today we're talking about, yes, your animals have their own jobs and what that means. So before we get started, though, on today's show, I'd like to remind you that my work is about helping you tap your own intuitive and healing abilities. Everyone is naturally intuitive, naturally a healer. And learning to tap those abilities is really important to living our best lives from a practical aspect, mind, body, and spirit. So stay tuned. I'm doing my show twice a month now, the first and third Mondays of the month. If you are listening live, you're welcome to call in to ask a question or share your experience on today's topic about animals and their jobs. The number for that is 202-570-7057. And if you're shy or come up with something later, you're more than welcome to email me at my website, robinfritz.com. That's ROBYNFRITZ.com. So before we get fully into today's show, I want to get us grounded and balanced in the space together here, releasing the cares of the day so we can share this time together. And we do that with my crystal partner, Fallon. Fallon is a citrine Lemurian quartz, very rare crystal, and an ancient healer and truth bringer. So imagine you're connecting to him. Currently, he's in the shape of a crystal ball. But imagine you're connecting with him in the way your intuition works most strongly, seeing pictures, hearing things talk with you, feeling their energy, or simply knowing that you're connected energetically. So if you sit back in your chair, or please don't do this if you're driving, but sit back in your chair or just relax and take your attention to the top of your head. Imagine we're bringing mind, body, and spirit together. And breathing down from the top of your head to the bottom of your feet. Just imagine the energy line going down and clearing out the cares of the day so you can have this time for your own nourishment, mind, body, and spirit. So breathing down from the top of your head, down your face, your shoulders, your chest, your hips, your knees, and your feet. The top of your head to the bottom of your feet. And now reversing that energy line, moving from your feet to the top of your head. Feel more blocks releasing and feel your body filling up with that healthy energy that is Fallon in your own beautiful selves. Breathing up from your feet, past your knees, your hips, your chest, your shoulders, your face, and the top of your head. So this hour, in addition to sharing our thoughts and what's going on in the world, is your opportunity to connect with Fallon, this rare ancient power crystal. And people have emailed me, in case you're curious. People say sometimes it's taken them listening to the third show before they really fully experience Fallon's energy. So be mindful of that. But you're welcome to share your impressions. Just connect with me at my website or at my Facebook page, The Practical Intuitive, Robin M. Fritz. So today, as we jump into the show, I want to talk about how our animals have their own jobs and what that means. So here's the thing. all families, whether they're multi-species families like mine that includes humans and animals, or whether they're simply all humans, we all have the job of being family members. But each member also has their own job to do. So if you think about it, whether you have, like, you might have children in school, so they have their jobs of going to school, you go to work, you shop for groceries, you take care of the house, the kids, everything, the animals. And a lot of times we forget that our animals have their own jobs to do. First and foremost, as family members, we come together and we learn and grow as family members. But all souls also choose the bodies that they're in to grow their souls in that experience. So they also have a job that they've chosen for that particular lifetime. In my experience, animals have fewer prejudices than people. I often say that humans are at once the least intelligent or most challenged beings on the in the universe, because we hold ourselves away from really understanding our intuition, our mind, body, spirit aspects. We're so busy making a living that we're not open to the larger universe around us. Animals can more freely see their past lives, their job that they came here to do, and they don't forget that as easily as we do. And as a result, they tend to step into jobs that most of us as humans can't even begin to imagine, but that do affect how we all live and operate in the world. And I'll share some stories about that as we get deeper into today's show. So in a sense, animals see the bigger picture more easily than we do. And that means they sometimes choose cosmic or world jobs that are mind-boggling when you stop to think about it. From being multidimensional ambassadors to freely picking up jobs that were left undone from previous incarnations. So the question then is, how do we know what jobs our animals have chosen? How do we know if they need our help just like we need their help as family members? How do we support them as individuals and family members? And how do their jobs affect not just their souls and their lives, but the rest of the family? So a couple things. One, to give you just a quick example of it, and this is not a cosmic job. This is an animal who chose a job based on her experience in the family. So I was recently having a mediumship session with a client who wanted to connect with her beloved deceased dog. And it was a gift from her mother-in-law to come and see me. And usually, all my mediumship sessions, all my sessions, but particularly the mediumship sessions, to me are sacred. So I don't routinely do live audience readings for individuals, because I want them to have the full experience of sharing in a session. And my mediumship sessions aren't about giving you validation of your loved ones. They're about helping you have a conversation with them so you can get closure, so that you can make sure they're okay, so that you can have a real conversation. And so I was surprised in talking with this dog that the first thing that she said was, and she was very adamant about it, that she took the job of protecting the woman from the man in the household, that he had been hurting her, and the dog decided that was not acceptable and would protect her human. And the woman sat there and her jaw dropped, and she stared at me and she said, "Oh my God," she goes, "that's absolutely true." And I didn't ever say anything to anyone, but the dog had gotten between her and the man that she had been living with when he tried to hurt her. Now, this was a dog that had been deceased for, I think, about 10 years, so that she focused immediately on, I needed to protect you, and I did, at whatever cost that was to me, showed to me that she was still in that moment, number one, but that she wanted this person to know she had taken on this job of protecting her. And from there, she moved on into talking about, sharing experiences and memories of their lives together. But it was a very sobering moment because it reminded me that, things do happen in our lifetime, in our lives with our animal family members, in our own lives, and things change. So one of the things that changed in this family was that when this man became dangerous, the dog intervened. And she was still calling attention to that 10 years later. So is this the job that the animal chose? In a sense, this was an additional job that the animal chose, but it wasn't what she had planned to do when she came into that body as a dog. It was what she picked up in the course of that life with that family. And when you think about it, this is what we do too in our lives, and this is what our animals do. We come together in a family. Some of us have human children. We go through that long period of raising human children, getting them through school and launched into the world. And it happens quicker and faster with animals. Their lives are generally shorter than ours. And so what they choose to do and what their jobs do during their lifetime can change like that. But their essential job in coming together as families, just as ours is when we choose to be in a family, is to thrive and change and grow within the confines of that family life. And from there, from that grounding and that general love and connection that you have, launching out to continue their soul work. So that's just one little simple example of how a job can change during a lifetime, that this dog saw a need to protect and acted on it. And that helped this woman it actually helped ease her grief over losing this soulmate dog, recognizing that the dog still remembered that she had acted in this capacity to protect her person, at risk to herself, but also that she saw a need to do that. So when we think about our animals and our animal families and the work that they do, there are a lot of things that have messed us up in the last, say, 20 years. Part of it is our awakening body, mind, and spirit to the world around us as being more involved than just about humans. And part of it is related to our own issues, our own inadequacies, our feelings of inadequacies as humans. But here's the thing. When we bring animals into our lives, we're asking them to become part of our families in a world that has evolved so rapidly that they have trouble adjusting. Just like birds fly into windows, and we've had windows for how long? We've had cars for how long? Evolution doesn't happen in 20 minutes. So we're asking animals to live with us in cities in circumstances that are rapidly evolving. If we think it's hard for us to adjust to new things, like self-driving cars, for example, or just the fast pace of modern life, imagine how hard it is for animals to adjust as animals to the world that we're asking them to get involved in by becoming family members. So sometimes people look at this and say, well, okay, I'm going to go to work and they're going to lie around the house and they'll be here when I come back, and they're alone for 10 or 12 hours. And you come back to destruction or a depressed dog or a happy dog or whatever, cat. But the thing of it is, what we do is we're asking them to live by rules that we've invented. And living by rules is part of how families get along, but it's a little bit different for them. So when we think we live by rules, we do. We stop at red lights when we're driving. We go on green lights. We try to mind our manners out in public with our own families. We have rules that we live by, and we create rules for our animal families to live by. That's called training, right? So we teach our dogs how to walk on leashes. We teach our cats how to get along with us, and they teach us in return. They teach us what they need to thrive and we grow and adapt. That's the fluidity that is a family. But we also need to consider our animals as species, as breeds, right? As predators, our cats and dogs. I'm just looking at cats and dogs right now. As predators, and their essential need to eat and survive, and the fact that they will hide pain and illness from us, not so much because they're trying to ignore it, but because a predator who reveals pain and disability is likely to be somebody else's lunch in the near future. So that is still part of being animals, and that is something that we need to consider when we're creating jobs for them and they're creating their own jobs, and when we're living together as family members. For example, I live with a male Cavalier King Charles Spaniel. Now, Cavaliers were created to be companion animals, strictly companion animals. Yeah, they had some haphazard flushing abilities in England when they were creating this breed, but basically they're lap dogs. They're created to be pets, to be company for us. But male Cavaliers are particularly devoted to a particular person. They are very codependent, so to speak. So in choosing to bring a second Cavalier, male Cavalier into my household, I had to remember that they are very sensitive, that they need that little bit of extra comfort and attention to their needs, as well as helping them stand on their four legs and attend to their own needs as well. After the break, we'll talk about our needs, our animals' needs, and how that leads to their jobs. Hang on, we'll be right back. For questions or to share a story, 202-570-7057.
Your conscious connection to a more mindful world. OMTimes Radio, IOM-FM. OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Hello, I'm Lisa Berry. Join me every Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time for Light on Living, a chance to see new, hear different, and feel more as I shine the spotlight on all the ways to lighten the load of life's challenges. Light on Living is your link to that new way you're looking for, that new understanding that will enhance your life, and that positive connection that will support your growth. So join me and you'll gain insight and start to see things in a new way that motivates you.
Opiates has taken everything and everyone I've ever loved away from me. Everything.
I blew my ankle out and I got prescribed pain pills by my doctor.
If making my detox public is going to help somebody, I'm all for it. I just wish I would have had a warning.
Opioid dependence can happen after just 5 days. Know the truth, spread the truth. A message from Truth, the Ad Council, and ONDCP.
Welcome back to the Practical Intuitive Mind, Body, Spirit for the Real World. It's Robin Fritz, and today we're talking about how our animals have their own jobs and what that means. So let me summarize a little bit about my male Cavaliers so you can think about how this relates to you and your animal family members. So Ollie is a reincarnation of my dog Alki, who was himself very codependent. And I noticed personality differences between them. I noticed, when he announced himself before he came back. But now he's here in a body. He's almost 4 years old. He'll be 4 the end of July. And he is the embodiment of a male cavalier. So he's very attached to me, and he's also very sociable. So I was well aware of this when I agreed for him to come back into the family at his request. And so there are adjustments that I make as a human member of the family. That means when Ollie and I go for walks, I let him approach other people who are inclined to approach him. I mean, he's very cute and people always want to pet him and say hello to him. And that's part of our daily routine 5 times a day. Some days we're lucky and we don't run into a lot of people as far as I'm concerned, but Ollie loves people. So that part of giving him a fulfilling life is allowing him to interact with people on the street. That's part of what a male cavalier's life is all about. It's also all about being connected to me and being next to me all the time. So he sits here in my office at my feet, and I have to be very careful where I put my feet so I don't accidentally clunk him in the head. And he sleeps in bed at night, and he's right beside me in the rest of the house. And he cries if I sit out on the deck to read a book and he's inside because there's not room for both of us on my tiny deck. So I have to pay attention to what his emotional needs are as well as his physical needs so that I can help him have the best experience of being a dog in this household that he can have. So how does that translate to you and your household? I hope it gives you some ideas about the personalities and the emotional needs of your animal companions. You know, a lot of people leave their dogs in the yard and don't take them for walks. That's not going to work for a cavalier. Besides that, we don't even have a yard at where we live. But what are the needs of the breed that you're considering taking in, the dog that you're adopting from wherever, and going to adapt to their needs? How are you going to serve them so that you can be the appropriate family member and that they get to blossom as family members? And that is not always easy. If you can't handle a Velcro dog, then don't go and acquire a male Cavalier King Charles Spaniel. Females are a little bit more independent, which is not typical of other breeds. But again, so if you're going out to acquire an animal, research what's going on in the breed or that breed mix that you're looking at and see if you're going to be adequate to their needs. A lot of people don't do that. So they'll adopt high-energy terriers and don't let these kids get exercise. And that leads to an unhappy household all around. But here's another thing to think about when you're thinking about animals and their jobs. I honestly don't know how we got into this mess as humans, but I believe it's high time that we got ourselves out of it and put our animals first and foremost where they belong as family members, just like we're family members, as equals to us. In different climates, we created dog breeds, cat breeds as well, but dog breeds to work with us in the fields, in wherever we were, now is search and rescue. But we also are mostly now living with them as family members. And we've kind of gone overboard because they look and act like they're catering to us, like they're there to make us feel good, that they are our companions for a lot of us who have not a lot of friends or family members, and that's it. That cat or dog is it. It's your family. We see gentle, loving animals that are always loving us no matter how crappy we are, and we think, well, here's an evolved soul and it's there to make me better, and so you end up worshiping these poor little beings as gurus and teachers when in fact they're in animal companion bodies which we have bred to cater to us. So what I'm saying is they're partly that way because we've created them to be with us. And yes, they are in many ways more evolved than we are because they don't have that human bias that gets in our way. Well, it has to be logical. Well, it has to be scientific. Well, that's not possible. Well, the number of things that humans use to walk away from the experiences that we could have, or the feelings or the knowledge that we could have if we would just relax. But the world isn't just about us. We're not the focus of the universe, not even close. And we shouldn't be using our animals as substitutes for our inadequacies, our loneliness, our I can't even say that word. For what we see in animals, attributing human characteristics to them. Of course they're like us. Of course we're like them, because we're all one thing. We're all souls and bodies learning to grow ourselves in this lifetime, and we all share certain characteristics. But we humans have this worldview that we're caretakers and guardians, and somehow now our animals are supposed to take care of us. But that's a limitation, body, mind, and spirit of ours, and it's limiting our animals and in fact causing harm in many ways. So when we look at them as gurus and teachers, we're forgetting that they have lives and purpose of their own, and we are perhaps co-opting that when we ask them to be our healers and our teachers. Now, do we learn from our animals? Of course we do. We should be learning from everything out there, from our trees, from our homes, from our streets, the ocean, the wind, everything. We should be learning from everything, because everything is alive. Everything has consciousness. The word inanimate doesn't even belong in our vocabulary because it's not true. There is nothing out there that is not animate. Everything is alive, has a soul, has consciousness, has a job to do, a responsibility to do that job, free choice about whether they're going to do it or not, and opinions. And it matters to us and to them that all life listens to each other and learns and grows together. And that's what we're doing on a small scale in our families. So if you're choosing to live with animals these days, what that means is that you're choosing a deeper connection than we've known in the past with animals. They're not just partners in hunting. They're partners in creating heart and soul growth, of learning up to a state where we can grow our souls together in a family that isn't just human, that it doesn't matter to us what shape the soul is in. What matters to us is that we've come together as family members, and we're doing the best we can to live day to day and to grow. And they have every right to do that within the family just like we do. So putting the burden on them to teach us or to heal us is abrogating your own responsibility to learn and to heal yourself. And putting that burden on an animal can and has shortened their lifespan, and sometimes taken away their purpose in being here for themselves. So I'm asking you to consider not looking at animals as teachers and healers, but as partners in our families, as partners in our lives together, where we're thinking and learning from them about what they need, like I was talking about my dog Ollie, and they're learning from us how to live in a family, and together we make mistakes and we have triumphs and we live and let live, right? And we try to create an opportunity for them to be the best they could be, the same way as we would do with any other human family member, or the same way that we would support our friends and families in the community around us. So what does that mean as we get into looking at that? If we look at animals, sure, as predators, as a different species from us, as family members, as companions, they're first and foremost like we are, they're souls, and they've chosen that particular body to grow that soul. So how do we support that? And how do we find out what they're up to? Well, the good news is we don't necessarily need to know exactly what their soul purpose is, because, and I know because I have clients every day, we humans don't always know what our own soul purpose is. And sometimes we can't know what we're moving towards any more than our animals know what they're moving towards, except for one thing. They don't forget very often their past lives. They don't think about them that much. I mean, I know from early animal communication exercises, people were interested, wow, did we live together in 13th century France? And well, their dog is more interested in what's for dinner, right? So we can have different thoughts and different experiences and different interests in how we've lived together before, but the main thing is what we're doing here and now, how we are being sensitive to their needs, and how we look at what we can provide for them. If you're providing a healthy, safe environment, adequate food and water and medical care and attention to their emotional needs, and playing with them and taking them for walks and doing whatever it is that you do to interact with your animals in your family like you interact with humans in your family, then you're giving everyone in that family the first thing that they need, right? Companionship, support in the family environment. Then that you need to consider what their job is in the world, if in fact it involves you or they need you for some particular reason. As I've said many times before, all souls choose the body that they need to fulfill their job in that lifetime. And as a side note, sometimes they goof up. I remember talking to a horse once that was just absolutely appalled. This horse was like, "Whoa, I totally made a mistake. I should not have been a horse. That's not the kind of life I want to live. I don't want to be in a horse body. I made a mistake." And I'm like, okay, well, you're like 4 years old and horses can live 20 to 30 years, sometimes more. So are you saying you just want out just because you think you didn't want to be a horse now? And the horse is like, yeah, kind of. And I'm like, well, isn't that a waste of a body and an experience? I mean, so now you can remind yourself, maybe you don't want to be a horse again or next time. But what are the things that you can do in this particular body right here and right now? And so what that horse ended up doing, I'll never know, but it did start reflecting on what can I do in this particular body that will grow my soul, entertain me, and that I can really, fully experience being a horse, even though that was a mistake and I didn't really want to be a horse. Because, we are responsible for the current bodies that we're in, even if we made a mistake in choosing them, which happens sometimes. Lessons learned, right? And something you can remember for future lifetimes. But what are you going to do with that lesson learned in your current lifetime? And so when Ollie came back, I really wasn't expecting him to come back. And when he did, he announced himself, and I was surprised because I thought when my dog Alki, another male cavalier, would come back, I thought he would go to a family with kids out in the country where he could run and run and run and run and run, because run and run and run and run is not something he was able to do with me, because I don't go to dog parks because they're dangerous. So we go to friends' houses where they have fenced yards and they can run and play. But he was full of energy and loved to run and play. And I thought that was his choice. Instead, when he announced himself that he was coming back, and I realized he was coming back with his memories intact, I was like, what are you doing? I wasn't expecting this. And he was very clear on his choice. He said, we weren't done with each other yet. I died before I was ready to die, which of course I knew. And he goes, we had things to do yet together. We had games to play. We had fun to have. We had love to have. We had just time together that we needed more time. I want more time with you. I want to be with you. And I also have work to do that I can only do when I'm with you. And I need to finish that job that I set out to do in the body that got cut off too early. And I'm like, oh, wow, okay. So there was a choice that I had to make. Was I willing to make a home for this soul knowing what its job was? And could I be a proper home for that body and that soul? And I thought long and hard about it for all of about 15 seconds. Because the truth of it is, if he wanted to come back, I was going to welcome him no matter what his job was. And I know you would feel the same way probably about most of your animal companions. But Alki had a very specific job that he had inherited and that I had inherited together. And that was an ambassador between different dimensions. And you're going like, what the heck is that? Well, tell me about what that means and how you might look at the job that your animals might be doing after the break coming up.
A conscious lifestyle for a mindful life. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free. AscendingHearts.com.
Hello, I'm Sandy Sedgbeer, host of OMTimes Magazine's flagship radio show, What is Going On? My passion is sifting through information, research, and innovations from new thought teachers, speakers, and researchers pushing back the boundaries of what we know about life, energy, metaphysics, and the universe. I love shifting perceptions about who we are, why we're here, and how quickly impossible becomes normal when we open our minds, expand our awareness, and accept that the only limits that exist are those we place upon ourselves. So if you're the kind of forward-thinking, eager investigator of what lies beyond the current reality that most perceive, why not make a date to come play with me in the field of possibilities at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time every Thursday, and together we can discover what's really going on.
Imagine being fired because of who you love. Imagine being denied medical treatment because of who you marry. Imagine being evicted because of who you are. Millions of Americans don't have to imagine this. They have to live it. Because in 31 states, it's legal to discriminate against LGBT people. Get the facts at beyondido.org. Brought to you by the Gill Foundation and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to the Practical Intuitive Mind, Body, Spirit for the Real World. It's Robin Fritz, and today we're talking about the jobs our animals have and what that means. So let me give you some ideas about that. We've talked about the client whose dog decided partway through their relationship that she needed to protect her from an abusive man in her life. Those are jobs that we step into during the course of our lives, from one thing to another. And it's important. It's important to our soul growth, and it's important to our physical development, mind, body, and spirit. But Alki, when he came back as Ollie, who's going to be 4 the end of July, he had another job that he was doing. And it was a job that he inherited from Murphy, my first cavalier, that he also had as Alki. And that was as an ambassador between dimensions. Now, what does that mean? It means that the multiverse that everybody speculates about is real, people. I've been there, which not something I would recommend, and not something I did on purpose. It was an accident, and I was not too happy about the experience. Not that I'm not an adventurer, but it was like dropped on me unexpectedly and very disorienting experience. But I know that there are multiple Earths, and there are multiple dimensions out there, and there are beings in the entire universe. I mean, it's packed full of all different kinds of beings. It's fascinating, it's amazing, and it can be difficult at times. And one of the things that our animals are doing is working with different beings in these dimensions. Why? Because humans tend to be assholes, and we don't, literally, do not look at other dimensions or other beings as something that we can just pleasantly sit down and have a conversation with. I mean, how many movies have you seen out there where the aliens aren't trying to shoot us, right? So they're actually, most of them are fairly benign. A lot of them are more advanced. They do research. They study here. And there are some of us who are very aware of them, who work with some of them, kick butts in other places. All kinds of things. But our animals are beings, are souls that have chosen animal bodies because in that form they have a subconscious connection to different dimensions that bypasses our human obnoxiousness. I said my nicest way of saying that. Humans get caught up in our what ifs, and animal bodies are so close to their souls that they can remember their previous lifetimes when they were doing jobs like these ambassadorial jobs and just step right back into them. So my animals and I have been doing this together for lifetimes, ages and ages and ages. And we freely interchange between being human and animal and whatever in those different lifetimes. But I only became aware of some of this again when Murphy was around and dragons came back into the world in 2004. And yes, dragons are real. And they look like dragons, just like we think they look like. And yeah, that's kind of mind-blowing. And I think I'll talk about that again in another show where I've mentioned that kind of thing before. But one of the things that's happened in the last, since 2004, is the dimensional connections between Earth and other planets are opening back up again. And there's more free give and take between dimensions. And sometimes that's abused by aliens, if you will, and sometimes it's abused by us, and at other times there's lots of free exchange. In other words, it's real life just in multiple dimensions. But one of the things that was necessary to happen was that these dimensional energies and the different beings from different dimensions were coming to work with the people, with the beings here on this planet, and it's a lot easier for them to work with souls that are in animal bodies because they're not as judgmental as humans and they're easier to converse with. So Murphy helped usher dragons back into the world, which was a huge job that I became aware of and for which she was honored in an amazing way at her death. And then that responsibility was inherited by me and by Alkai. So I had become aware of this, and I spend part of my time talking to different beings in different dimensions and literally negotiating how we're going to talk to humans and then introducing humans to different beings so that they get to have all the fun. Other people that I talk with get to have all the fun of meeting different beings from different dimensions because they're in the groundwork. They're doing all of the really cool stuff at the ground level. They're basically socializing and getting to know different cultures, really different cultures, which is amazing and cool. And I don't really get to do that because I'm the one negotiating. So it's kind of a boring job that I have. But the job that Alkai and Murphy and now Ollie have is to literally converse with these beings and just be with them and help pave the way so that humans and other beings on the planet will start having these conversations with them. And so he said, well, that's what I need to do. I need to continue this dimensional work. And I'm like, okay, so here's the funny thing. All of those different beings showed up within the first few months of Ollie's life here, and he barked at them. And I'd see them, and sometimes I'd just be aware of the shift in energy in the room, and I go, okay, who's here? And I'd see different ones, or they'd identify who they were, and I'd keep sending them away, because look, he's too young, he's just a baby. Well, I'm thinking about it, Alki and Murphy didn't step into their full positions in that job until they were like 5 years old, which is like young adulthood for humans, right? So Ollie isn't quite old enough yet, and several weekends in a row recently, they've popped in to say hello, and I can tell the energy changes in the room, and I can tell that Ollie changes, and he perks up, and he looks at them, and he growls, and he barks, and they're like, what is going on? And I said, look, he's still not old enough, or he may choose, now that he's here in a body, he may choose that he doesn't want to be that ambassador. Maybe he just wants to be a goof bucket and have fun in this lifetime. Whatever he wants, he gets supported by his spiritual team and me and Karis the cat. And who knows what he will step into in the next year or so. But right now, whenever they show up, he's like, I'm not really that interested. I'll like pay attention to you. I'm not sure who you are. I'm not sure I really want to do this. Maybe I might. So he's still deciding. And my job as a family member is to say, it's okay. It's okay. You can choose to do it, or you can choose not to do it, or you can wait a little while and just notice them when they show up. And, they're going to keep showing up, because when they show up and you tell me you're not ready, I'll send them away. But, they get to keep showing up until you say, no, you never want to see them again, or whatever it is. So I know that sounds really unusual, and it is, but there are plenty of other animals out there having similar types of experiences, taking on jobs that we just have no idea exist, because we're caught up in our own human minds, and we're not as open to things. But one thing we are open to as humans that we're aware of is that the energies are changing here on the planet. And people call it like fifth dimension or whatever, but the reality is the planet is always evolving. It's living just like we are, and we're always evolving. Humans now today are much different than they were 2,000 or 5,000 or 50,000 years ago, and our animals are the same. They're evolving too. And our souls evolve. They grow through each experience. And so all that we can really do within our families is to support the animals that come into our families, just like we support the humans that come into our families, for however long or short a time that is, and provide them with the best opportunity to grow that we can, with good food, with good water, with love, with medical care, with everything that they need to really blossom as souls and as healthy bodies, to enjoy them and to let them enjoy us, and to live as families. And that means if you're short-tempered, you apologize to them for that. Just like you can see them like make a mistake and go, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. So our first thing again is really creating families with these kids, understanding that they're souls. And then, if it's important for you to know that they have some sort of cosmic job like my kids have, you'll find out about it at some point, because you'll be needed to help them, to give them a hand up, as I say, just like they're giving us a hand up by being in the world and doing that great world work, which is helping the universe expand with the energies of a growing and evolving planet Earth. And Karis the cat came into our life 2 years ago. She joined the family 2 years ago on Memorial Day weekend here in the United States, which is the last weekend of May. And I didn't know until a few weeks before the day I found out she was available that she was the reincarnation of my cat Grace, and that she was coming back with her abilities to channel energy, what ancients used to call, or even rude people today call familiars, the witch's familiar. Much more important than that, she's a channel of energy, and she can channel a lot of energy. And she actually has stepped into her work here in the household as joining me in clients and client sessions, and she holds this great energy space, especially in mediumship sessions or animal communication sessions, mediumship sessions with animals. And it's all part of, yes, you've chosen to come into this family. I see what work you're here to do because it's a continuation of work that we've done together. I see where I, as a human, need to grow to be able to not worry so much when you step into doing your job, to provide you with the healthiest body that I can, the happy and healthy energy to exist within this family, and supporting the choice that you make as an animal with your soul to do this soul work or not. And so whatever your animals are up to in the world, they're having fun. They're being serious. When Murphy, my dog, used to sleep a lot, I didn't know she was trying to draw headaches out of my body. And when I found that out, I stopped her, because there are things just like taking on our need for healing. There are things that animal companion bodies do because they're animal companion bodies. We have bred them to serve us. Maybe we need to step back from that and let them be family members instead of servants. And what does that mean? Not that there are healers or teachers or gurus, but that they have their own jobs to do. We have our own jobs to do. And when we come together as families, our first job is family members, and everything else comes after that. So sit down with your animals, ask them to share with you what is it that they chose to do when they became this animal body. And ask them how you can help them. And they may have some specific things. I learned a number of different metaphysical things to help my kids, and also to help myself, because it isn't easy for a human body to work in different dimensions and stay healthy. But there's so many things that they're up to. There's so many jobs out there. It's important for you to remember first and foremost that you're family, and whatever that means to you and however that works for you, it's good and it's right and it's just and it's healthy. And that's where you take it. So I hope you take from today the understanding that animals do have their jobs. They have their own jobs, and supporting them in doing those jobs is part of our work as family members. It helps us grow too in our own soul connections. I've certainly become able to use the word spiritual in my life, which I wasn't able to for many years, by watching the amazing work that my animal family members did. In many ways, I consider them more evolved than me, but again, they didn't choose human bodies, which are stumbling blocks of their own. But we are all evolving together, and that's what counts. And I hope that you're evolving with your animals and that you have fun with them, that you enjoy them, that when you go through what we've gone through in our house the last 2 weeks with Ollie having major surgery to remove a badly fractured tooth. Of course, he would break the most complicated tooth in his head to take out. And nursing him back to health with that, that's all part of the package, right? But love them, enjoy them, support them. They're loving and enjoying and supporting us. Laugh at your mistakes, laugh at the good times, hold strong in the tough times. We're here together to really experience what it's like to be multidimensional, multi-species families. Where the planet goes from here is going to be amazing, because those of you who have chosen to live with animals as family members have taken the first step to recognizing that it isn't all about humans. It's about souls, and souls come in many shapes and forms, many of which we're going to start noticing here on the planet. So again, my name's Robin Fritz. You can find me at my website, robinfritz.com. That's ROBYNFRITZ.com. I offer personal and business intuition, mediumship, animal communication, space clearing, past life and between life regression, spiritual awakening, soul progression clearing, energy healing, a full range of services to help you and your animal families be their best, to help you resolve grief at the death of a loved one, and to clear your soul of blocks so that you can make the contribution that you came here to make in the world. You can find me every Monday at 11 a.m. Pacific time at Facebook Live at Humanity Healing. You can find my column Living Intuitively at OMTimes.com magazine. And on June 17th, my next show, we're going to talk about how to create a relationship with your crystals. So tune in for that. Let me know how I can help you, and thank you for joining us today. Take care.